Installing a hot tub requires careful attention to electrical codes and safety practices. The use of metal flex conduit vertically through a wall from the ground fault circuit interrupter breaker, or GFCI breaker, and connecting it to electrical metallic tubing, or EMT, where it extends under the deck is acceptable. This is permitted under National Electrical Code, or NEC, Section 300.3, TN 350.30. When using metal conduit and ENT for grounding, ensure the conduit is properly bonded and connections are tight and secure, following NEC Sections 250.118 and 250.119. Regarding subpanels, connecting grounds to the neutral bar is not allowed unless the subpanel is a direct extension of the service panel and directly bonded to the service ground. This is according to NEC 310.10 and 250.28. If adding a grounding bar, it must be properly bonded to the service ground, which can be achieved by running a grounding conductor back to the service neutral or connecting the grounding bar to the subpanel enclosure with a bonding jumper, as specified in NEC 250.28. Addressing damaged neutral wires is crucial. PIP strands reduce the wire's current carrying capacity, potentially causing overheating and fire hazards. The neutral bar should be replaced with one that accommodates the full wire size, or it should be modified to ensure the full wire can be inserted. Now, let's delve deeper into each of these aspects, starting with the hot tub wiring. The proper installation of a hot tub electrical system is paramount for safety and compliance. Firstly, the use of metal flex conduit provides a protective pathway for the electrical conductors from the GFCI breaker to the point where it transitions to EMT. This transition is often necessary for sections running under the deck, where EMT offers better protection against physical damage and environmental factors. Secondly, NEC Section 300.3 permits the use of different wiring methods in the same raceway or cable, provided they are suitable for the conditions. The combination of flexible metal conduit and EMT is a common and accepted practice when installed correctly. Ensure that all connections are made using approved fittings and that the conduit is properly supported to prevent stress on the connection. NEC Section 350.30 requires flexible metal conduit to be securely fastened within 12 inches of each box, fitting, or raceway termination. Additionally, supports must be placed at intervals not exceeding 4½ feet. Grounding is a critical aspect of any electrical installation, and the hot tub is no exception. The metal conduit and EMT can serve as the equipment grounding conductor, provided they meet the requirements outlined in NEC 250.118 and 250.119. These sections specify the types of metal raceways that are suitable for use as equipment grounding conductors and the conditions under which they can be used. It is vital to ensure that all connections are made wrench tight and that any lock nuts and bushings are properly installed to maintain a continuous and effective ground path. The grounding path must have lower impedance and sufficient ampacity to safely carry any fault current back to the source. Moving on to the subpanel grounding, understanding the requirements for grounding subpanels is essential for preventing electrical hazards. The NEC generally prohibits connecting the equipment grounding conductors to the neutral bar in a subpanel, unless the subpanel is located in the same enclosure as the service equipment or is directly connected to the service equipment with a properly sized grounding electrode conductor. This is because, in a typical subpanel installation, the neutral conductor carries unbalanced current from the loads served by the subpanel. If the equipment grounding conductors are connected to the neutral bar, any voltage drop on the neutral conductor will be imposed on the equipment grounding system, creating a potential shock hazard. NEC Section 310.10 addresses the requirements for neutral conductors, emphasizing the need for a properly sized and installed neutral to carry the unbalanced load. Section 250.28 provides specific requirements for bonding the grounded conductor in separately derived systems, which can include subpanels. If the subpanel is not directly connected to the service equipment, a separate equipment grounding conductor must be run from the subpanel back to the service equipment grounding bus. This conductor provides a dedicated path for fault current to return to the source, minimizing the risk of voltage on the equipment grounding system. If a grounding bar is added to the subpanel, it must be properly bonded to the service ground. This can be accomplished by running a grounding conductor back to the service neutral by connecting the grounding bar to the subpanel enclosure with a bonding jumper. The size of the grounding conductor or bonding jumper must be determined based on the size of the ungrounded conductors feeding the subpanel in accordance with NEC Table 250.102. C1. NEC Section 250.28. D provides additional requirements for bonding equipment grounding conductors to the enclosure. Finally, addressing the damaged neutral wire is of utmost importance. The neutral conductor plays a crucial role in carrying unbalanced current back to the source, and any reduction in its current carrying capacity can have serious consequences. Clipped strands significantly decrease the wire's ability to handle current, leading to increased resistance, heat generation, and potential failure. This situation poses a significant fire hazard and must be rectified immediately. The most appropriate solution is to replace the neutral bar with one that has a larger terminal opening to accommodate the full conductor size. If replacing the neutral bar is not feasible, alternative methods may include using a listed reducing connector or modifying the existing terminal to accept the full conductor, provided the modification is performed by a qualified professional and approved by the local electrical inspector. When dealing with electrical installations, always adhere to the NEC and local codes. It is also recommended to consult with a licensed electrician. They can provide valuable insights and ensure the installation meets all safety and code requirements. This will help ensure safe and reliable operation. Hot tubs must have a disconnecting means within sight of the hot tub. This allows for the power to be cut off in case of an emergency or for maintenance. The disconnecting means must be readily accessible and rated for the voltage and amperage of the hot tub. Ensure that all electrical work is performed by a qualified electrician and that all local codes and regulations are followed. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others. Remember that electrical codes can vary depending on your location, so it is important to consult with your local building department or a qualified electrician to ensure that your installation complies with all applicable requirements. Let's consider some additional details regarding conduit installation. When running conduit, ensure it is properly supported to prevent sagging or damage. Use appropriate straps and hangers designed for the type and size of conduit being used. The spacing between supports should not exceed the maximum allowed by the NEC, which varies depending on the conduit type and size. For example, for 1/2 inch EMT, support should be placed no more than 10 feet apart. When making bends in conduit, use a conduit bender designed for the specific type and size of conduit. Avoid kinking or flattening the conduit, as this can reduce its current carrying capacity and make it difficult to pull wires through. The radius of the bend should also comply with NEC requirements, which specify minimum bending radii based on the conduit size. Regarding grounding electrodes, it is important to ensure that the grounding electrode system is properly installed and maintained. The grounding electrode system typically consists of one or more grounding electrodes, such as ground rods, metal water pipes, or concrete encased electrodes connected to the service equipment grounding bus. The purpose of the grounding electrode system is to provide a low impedance path to ground for fault current, helping to protect against electrical shock and equipment damage. Ground rods should be driven into the ground to a depth of at least 8 feet and spaced at least 6 feet apart. Metal water pipes used as grounding electrodes must have at least 10 feet of the pipe in direct contact with the earth. Concrete encased electrodes, also known as UFA-grams, must consist of at least 20 feet of 1/2 inch rebar encased in concrete. All grounding electrodes must be connected to the service equipment grounding bus with a properly sized grounding electrode conductor. In addition to the grounding electrode system, it is also important to ensure that all metal enclosures and equipment are properly bonded. Bonding is the process of connecting all non-current carrying metal parts of an electrical system together to create a continuous electrical path. This helps to minimize voltage differences between different parts of the system and provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. Bonding can be accomplished using bonding jumpers, bonding screws, or other approved methods. Regarding wire sizing, the size of the conductors used for the hot tub circuit must be adequate to carry the load. The minimum wire size is determined by the ampacity of the circuit breaker protecting the circuit, as well as the ambient temperature and the number of current-carrying conductors in the raceway or cable. The NEC provides tables that specify the allowable ampacities of different wire sizes based on these factors. For example, number 6 copper wire, which is often used for 50 amp circuits, has an ampacity of 55 amps when installed in a raceway with no more than 3 current-carrying conductors and an ambient temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. It is also important to consider voltage drop when sizing conductors. Voltage drop is the reduction in voltage that occurs along a conductor due to its resistance. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to operate inefficiently or even fail. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop to no more than 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. To calculate voltage drop, you need to know the length of the circuit, the current flowing through the circuit, and the resistance of the conductor. Regarding GFCI protection, ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, are essential safety devices that protect against electrical shock. A GFCI is designed to detect ground faults, which occur when current leaks from a circuit to ground. When a ground fault is detected, the GFCI quickly trips the circuit, cutting off the flow of electricity and preventing a potentially fatal shock. The NEC requires GFCI protection for all receptacles located in bathrooms, kitchens, and other wet locations, as well as for outdoor receptacles in hot tub circuits. GFCIs are available in several different types, including receptacle-type GFCIs, circuit breaker-type GFCIs, and portable GFCIs. Receptacle-type GFCIs are installed in place of standard receptacles and provide GFCI protection for the particular receptacle. Circuit breaker type GFCIs are installed in the electrical panel and provide GFCI protection for the entire circuit. Portable GFCIs are plugged into standard receptacles and provide GFCI protection for any equipment plugged into the portable GFCI. It's important to regularly test GFCIs to ensure that they are functioning properly. To test a GFCI, press the test button on the GFCI. They should cause the GFCI to trip and cut off the flow of electricity. Then press the reset button to restore power to the circuit. If the GFCI does not trip when the test button is pressed, it should be replaced immediately. When working with electricity, always follow safe work practices. Firstly, always turn off the power to the circuit before working on it. Use a voltage tester to verify that the power is off. Secondly, wear appropriate personal protective equipment such as safety glasses and rubber gloves. Thirdly, never work alone. Have someone nearby who can assist you in case of an emergency. Fourthly, follow all applicable codes and regulations. Consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. Fifthly, be aware of your surroundings and avoid contact with energized parts of the electrical system. Sixthly, use insulated tools. When working on electrical circuits, use tools that are specifically designed for electrical work and have insulated handles. Seventhly, avoid working in wet conditions. Water is a good conductor of electricity, so avoid working on electrical circuits in wet conditions. If you must work in wet conditions, use appropriate safety precautions such as wearing rubber boots and gloves. Eighthly, be careful when working near overhead power lines. Overhead power lines can be very dangerous, so be careful when working near them. Maintain a safe distance from the power lines and avoid contact with them. Ninthly, never overload electrical circuits. Overloading electrical circuits can cause the wires to overheat and create a fire hazard. Be sure to use the correct size circuit breaker for the circuit and avoid plugging too many devices into a single circuit. And 10thly, inspect electrical cords and plugs regularly. Damaged electrical cords and plugs can create a shock hazard or fire hazard. Inspect electrical cords and plugs regularly for signs of damage, such as cracks, frayed wires, or loose connections. Replace any damaged cords or plugs immediately. By following these safety tips, you can help to prevent electrical accidents and injuries. Always remember that electricity can be dangerous, so it is important to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others.